What's up, guys? Matt Moda here to give you my favorite NFL player prop picks. We're talking Thanksgiving. Black Friday will be a different video. Sunday, different video. Monday Night Football, different video. For this video, we're just talking about the three Thanksgiving games. I'm actually going to have 5 plays for you guys to lock in 2 of the games. I'll have 2 plays. We're rocking with 4 player props, 1 anytime touchdown, 1 plus money banger, which is also the anytime touchdown. But before we get into all that, let's do a recap from week 12, which ended up being really, really frustrating. We were down 0.21 units, which in the grand scheme of things, that's not terrible. It started really well. We cashed out Thursday Night Football. It started well on the Sunday slate where we were 3-1 heading into Sunday Night Football. This Puka Nacua loss really, really hurt because I love the matchup. I didn't think the game was going to turn that big into a blowout. So he came close with 7 receptions. And if the Rams didn't get a pick 6 and that game was even remotely close, he definitely gets to 8, but he did not. But I still felt good heading into Monday Night Football. I had 2 plays. I really liked both of them. Guess what? They both lost. No bad beats on these 2, just 2 offenses that were absolutely disgusting. I think Ricky Pearsall, I overvalued the beginning of the year when he did a lot of his damage with no Juwan Jennings and no George Kittle. I think I put too much emphasis into that. The Tet one, I don't feel as bad about. I thought he was going to have a good game. I did not expect Bryce Young to look like he'd never played football before. I thought he was kind of taking a step forward after how good he was last week, and that was not even remotely the case. So down 0.21 units is not terrible, but when you consider the year that we're having, I was really, really hoping to have another good week. We were profitable 2 straight weeks prior to that. Granted, up like 3.75 units over a 2-week span is not incredible, but we were on our way. I thought we were going to be up like another 4 or like 3-4 units this week, but it just wasn't the case. That's kind of how this season has gone. It's been rough, but feeling better about how things are going in the NFL. So hopefully these 5 plays on Thanksgiving, 5-0 on the holiday. Why not? Would be great. There are 2 plays that I have in this Packers-Lions game. And the first one here is David Montgomery over 9.5 receiving yards. The best offered price here is actually -110 odds at Bet365, but I would still take -115 at both BetMGM and Hard Rock if like one of those isn't available, whatever. The thing with David Montgomery, it's pretty simple. Is the game close? If yes, equals take David Montgomery receiving yards. You look at him this year, right off the bat, he's gone over in 7 of 11 games. He's averaging 12.3 per game. So you look at that and you're like, all right, what we're asking him to do, he clearly is capable of doing. Now, there were a couple games that he was close. 10 yards here on 1 reception, 10 yards here on 2 receptions, 13 yards here on 1 reception. But the thing with David Montgomery is when he gets these targets out of the backfield, it's normally when he has a lot of space in front of him. It's not like Jahmyr Gibbs. He was fantastic. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs is absolutely incredible, but they're going to keep a close eye on Jahmyr Gibbs. When David Montgomery gets the ball, it's when he's wide open. He cashed it in the first game this year against the Packers. But the biggest thing here, and this is what I love about Props Madness, which you can do. Let's look at the win-loss margin. Let's just take out every single game that the Lions won between 10 and 31 points. Guess what? It's over in 6 of 6 games. Literally every single game in which the score was close, he has gone over. So you look at the games he missed. 1 by 31, 1 by 24, 1 by 13, 1 by 22. Yeah, the games that are blowouts, David Montgomery isn't used as much. They're just going to use him on the ground, and he's not going to get anything through the air. Well, against the Packers, I mean, they're 2.5-point favorites. This game is most likely going to be close. We just saw him cash it in the first game of the year. And if we want to go back to last year, you take out this game against the Commanders because he was coming back from injury, only played 25% of the snaps. That's literally the lowest snap rate he has played as a member of the Lions. So I feel pretty good about saying we can take this game out. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to take out the blowouts, games that they didn't win by 10 or more points. Guess what? It's over in 8 of 9 games because you take out this game, 8 of 9 games. The one game he missed was week 1 last year against the Rams. Just a bad game. We can accept that. Cash it in 8 straight after that, and it's 6 of 6 this year. So I love the fact that we are getting him below 10 in a game that should be close. Even these last couple weeks, he's playing 39% of the snaps, 34% of the snaps. Guess what? He's still getting 3 targets. Only 1 target, but got 10 yards out of it. Now, this game, you want to know why he played more of the snaps? Because they won by 22, and they used him on the ground. Well, the matchup against the Packers, it's not terrible, but it's also not scary. They're like middle of the pack in terms of receiving yards allowed to the running back position. In terms of target share to the running back position, they're allowing like the 8th most. So some good, some bad, some good, some average in terms of the matchup. But this is less, this is less about the matchup, and it's more about the fact that he will get this work in a close game. I know everybody's going to be in love with Jahmyr Gibbs, and I get it. Jahmyr Gibbs is amazing. His over-under is 34.5. We're asking David Montgomery to get 10 yards. I just think that he's consistently undervalued by the books. I thought the same thing last year, and I played it up until he got hurt. So David Montgomery over 10 or more receiving yards, I absolutely love. In the same game, I like Christian Watson to go over 51.5 receiving yards. That's at -114 at FanDuel. This is the exact price that I locked in. We're able to get it, no harm, no foul there. Now, you look at Christian Watson. He's only gone over this in 2 of 5 games. He's actually missed it in 3 straight. I like the fact that he's come close, 45, 46, and 49. And I like the fact that in 2 of those games in which he went under this 51.5 number, he hit what his over-under was priced at. So the books were still undervaluing him a little bit. Now, this game against the Vikings, he had 49 yards and his over-under was 51.5. That would be frustrating if that happened again. But I loved his workload. I mean, he had 7 targets and 5 receptions. For somebody like Christian Watson, who was used a lot on deep targets, if you're telling me he's going to get 5 receptions, I would be shocked. More often than not, I would be very, very confident that he is getting 50 or more receiving yards. Like we look at this game this year, or we look at his entire career, games in which he's had 5 receptions. He's only done it 3 times. In the other 2 games, 94 and 71 yards. So when he gets 5 receptions, he's going over a lot. Even targets, if he's getting 7 targets, he's going to go over more often than not. 4 of 8 games is a little bit less than I would have thought. But in terms of going over his closing line, it's about the same. But what I like the fact that look at 2 of these games in which he went over. Detroit Lions, 114 yards. Detroit Lions, 94 yards. Now, he had a tough game in the middle of that where he only had 37. But that brings me to my next point is I love this matchup against the Lions. The Lions, they love to play man coverage. It's what they did last year, even under a new defensive coordinator. They play a ton of man, literally the most in the entire NFL. We're going over to fantasy points. We're looking at man coverage. They play at the highest rate in the NFL at 41.7%. They're the only team above 40%, and only 2 teams are even at 39% and above. And you compare that to some other teams, play man 12%, 15%, 16%, 16%, 18% of the time. That's really, really low. And you look at Christian Watson against man coverage. Now, it's normalized a little bit more. This was pretty dramatic when he first came back from injury. But still, 2.85 yards per route run, green equals good, 2.19 against the zone. It's higher. Last year, it was a lot more aggressive, 3.58 against man coverage, 2.39 against zone. Now, you look at last year and you say he only hit that in 6 of 14 games. He missed a lot of time due to injury last year. So if you look at like snap rate and you just take out the games in which he got hurt, so it's 12% here, 43% here, and 15% there. You take those games out, it's over in 6 of 11 games, averaging 56 receiving yards per game. And Jayden Reed played in every single one of these games. So I'm not scared off of the fact that Jayden Reed, actually 6 of his last 10 that he's played with Jayden Reed, and he played 50% of the snaps, which he will play unless he gets hurt, which you can't you can't predict that. So it's a matchup the Packers are going to have to keep up with the Lions. He's had good games against the Lions last year, 114 yards on 7 targets last year against the Lions. He's a big play guy. He's either going to have 37 on 7 targets or he's going to have 114 on 7 targets. I'll take my chances in a game in which the Packers just don't have anybody left to throw to. Even if Jayden Reed comes back, there's no Tucker Kraft. And the other guys, they just clearly don't trust. So Christian Watson has been a favorite of Jordan Love since he's come back. I mean, he came back from a torn ACL, 85 yards, 58 yards. And then 45 and 46 and 49 are a little bit low, but I think he's going to get used in a good way on these deep targets for Christian Watson. So that's play number 2. Next up, we're going right back to a guy that we went with last week, and it's Rashee Rice on the receiving yards. I was able to get him at 71.5. It's now moved. I'm still good. taking it at 74.5. I have no issues taking it at this current price at 74.5. And honestly, I don't really understand what we're doing here with this price. So you look at Rashee Rice right off the bat, 3 of 5 games, averaging 78 yards per game. Now he missed it in his first game. Guess what? He only played 41% of the snaps. Guess what? He still had 10 targets. That is a ridiculous target share. And he scored twice in this game as well. So they got him involved, just not necessarily in terms of snap rate. So you take that game out and you look at how many snaps he's played. He's played 76%. Now, one game he went under, you can forgive him. That was against probably the best defense in the NFL in the Denver Broncos. But in good matchups against the Commanders, 93 yards. Good matchup against the Bills, 80 yards. Good matchup against the Colts, 141 yards. His over-under in this game was about the same, 72, 71 and a half. It hasn't moved at all. He blew up for 141 yards. And now we're getting him in what's probably the best or second or third best matchup in the NFL. I get the Cowboys, they beat the Eagles last week. Their defense is not as bad as it was at the beginning of the year. You know what has improved with the Cowboys defense? Their run defense. They shut down the Eagles on the ground. You know what the Eagles receivers did to the Cowboys last week? A.J. Brown, 110 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Smith, 89 yards. The week before, they were low totals, but Trey Tucker, Tyler Lockett both went over their receiving yards against the Cowboys. This was before the bye, so before they made the the trade upgrades at the trade deadline. Marvin Harrison and Michael Wilson both went over what their over-under was priced at. And even since the trade deadline, all 4 receivers have gone over. So yeah, maybe the Cowboys defense isn't going to be as bad as they were at the beginning of the year. It's only because their run defense got better, and the Chiefs aren't going to try and run the ball a ton. Now, they did end up running a lot last week, way more than I would have expected. Rashee Rice still went off for 141 yards. And the Cowboys offense is amazing. The Chiefs are going to have to keep up with this Cowboys offense. They're going to be throwing a lot. And I don't really understand why Rashee Rice is priced the way it is. I think he's got ladder opportunity, at least up to 90. I've told myself that I need to start having more success before I start laddering plays. Because, I mean, last week, my favorite ladder play would have been Puka, and that would have lost. So let me just get some sustained success, and then I'll feel comfortable laddering plays, maybe like in the playoffs or something. But I just love everything about this play for Rashee Rice over his receiving yardage prop. That's play number 3. The last 2, we're heading to the Bengals-Ravens. The first one here, we're going to stick with the receiving yards market, and we're going with Chase Brown. He is priced at, best offered, I should say, at 18.5 at minus 115 odds. I would still take 19.5 at minus 114. I'm good with either one of those. So the thing with Chase Brown, he's gone over in 6 of 11 games. He missed it in week 1 where Burrow did play. And then he missed it in the next 2 games with Jake Browning, who's terrible. But since then, and Flacco came here in this game, but he's gone over in 6 of his last 8 games. And he's gone over in 4 of 6 games with a competent quarterback, which is Joe Flacco. Now, Flacco's out for this game. Who is playing is Joe Burrow. You might have heard of him. I don't know how Joe Burrow's going to look, but I don't think that him being back is going to be anything negative with Chase Brown. And you look at him, since he became the lead running back for the Bengals, like you look at him like 55% snap share and above, he's been really, really involved in the passing game. 10 of 18 games, 2 games at the very beginning of the year. Last year, he went under still in October. He really started to play more like in the second half of the season from November and on. And you look at that, so November from last year until now, 10 of 16 games he's gone over. He's averaging 30 receiving yards per game. And I think the matchup is really, really good against the Ravens. You want to know one of the games he went over last year? 52 receiving yards against the Ravens. 11 targets. 11 targets is crazy. You want to know who missed this game? T. Higgins did not play. And, oh yeah, that also happened to line up against the Ravens. The Ravens are a good matchup for running back receiving props. You look at them on the entire year, and they've allowed the 8th most. We're looking at running back receiving yards allowed. They've allowed the 7th or 8th most. Now, that doesn't sound amazing. It's not top 5. It's not number 1 or 2. But you have to keep in mind a couple of these games where the receivers didn't have good games in the air. This game against the Texans, Lamar Jackson missed. Now, Kyron Williams had a good game. Lamar missed that game. Monangai didn't have a good game, but Swift did. You look at the games since Lamar Jackson has come back from injury, this game against the Dolphins and on, every single starting running back, except for whoever you want to call the starter for the Browns, has set their receiving prop over. Breece Hall, 75 yards. Aaron Jones, 22 yards. Devon Achane, 39 yards. And even the week before that, DeAndre Swift went over as well. It's a good matchup for receiving yards. I mean, when Lamar was healthy, you look back at the beginning of the year, both Montgomery and Gibbs went over. The week after, against the Chiefs, both Hunt and Pacheco went over. They're a good matchup for receiving props, and him needing to get 20 for Chase Brown, I feel really, really good about. And then the last one here is our anytime touchdown. It's Mark Andrews, aka Mandrews, anytime touchdown. It's best offered at plus 125 at Bet365. So the odds have moved on some of the books. I would check Bet365. I lock them in at plus 125, and you should be able to get a better price than the plus 107 at Caesars. The biggest thing for Mark Andrews is the matchup. The Cincinnati Bengals against tight ends are historically bad. We're looking at touchdowns allowed to tight ends per game. The Bengals are number one at 1.2. They literally allow more than one touchdown per game against the tight end position. The next closest teams are all tied for 0.6. You want to look at totals, just like total touchdowns allowed to the tight end position. They've allowed 13. The next closest teams are at 7. It's comical how bad the Bengals are against tight ends. Last week, Hunter Henry scored. Against the Steelers, the first time against the Steelers, all 3 tight ends scored. Freiermuth scored twice. Darnell Washington scored. Pat Freiermuth scored. And Jonnu Smith scored. The only one that didn't was Casey Hayward, who isn't really even a tight end. The week before, Tucker Kraft blew up against the Bengals. He scored a touchdown. Colson Loveland scored 2 touchdowns. Last week, Hunter Henry scored a touchdown, and he just had an incredible game in general. And Mark Andrews, he's really only somebody that you feel comfortable targeting in the good matchups, which is this one against the Bengals. Last year, he scored against the Bengals. The year before, he scored against the Bengals. You can't look at this game. He got hurt in this game, played 11% of the snaps. So if you look at the last 2 years against the Bengals, he scored in 2 of 3 games in which he didn't leave due to injury. And this game, he had 5 targets. So still was used, just didn't end in a touchdown. And then this year, he had started slow. You take out the games in which Lamar Jackson missed because those don't really count. So you look at games with Lamar Jackson. It's a touchdown in 4 of 8 games. Slow start, which really means it's a touchdown in 4 of his last 6 games. And Lamar got hurt in this game. And since Lamar has come back, he scored 4 touchdowns in 4 games. He didn't score last week, but he had a drop in the red zone, or literally in the end zone, he had a drop. So if he just caught the ball, he scored in 4 straight games. The matchup is really, really good for Mark Andrews to score a touchdown. So I like for him to score a touchdown. And that's all we got. So it's 5 total plays for Thanksgiving. Christian Watson receiving yards, David Montgomery, Rashee Rice, Chase Brown, all on their receiving yardage prop. And then Mandrews, anytime touchdown, plus 125 at Bet365. A holiday miracle of 5-0 would feel very, very good. Let's hope it happens. I would take 4-1. I would even take 3-2 because that would equal profit. But that's all we got for this video. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Have a good one.